Mike Hoffpart. We are starting the recording, so we're going to go ahead and begin today's meeting. Are you presenting the slides now?
I'm splitting people in.
Okay.
Hold on, I need to share.
All right, so now we're presenting the slides. Go ahead and pass to the first slide. Well, I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia with almost all of the executive board. We've got Randy Bowers here, Fun Fong, Chuck Unruh, Kevin Pryor, and Dave Hayter. And we also have on the call today, John Fernandez and David Day, who are both kind of snowed in and landlocked because of the aircraft, the air travel problem with that caused by the big storm. So the entire executive board is on this afternoon's call. And the purpose this afternoon is to talk about this special delegates meeting we have coming up and to answer questions that any of you may have. But the context for this meeting is one of the first things we're going to talk about. And then toward the end, we actually get a chance to practice voting, so make sure everyone knows how to vote using the capability. And then if there's time toward the end, if anybody needs to hang on to, because they're having problems or difficulties with the Zoom platform, maybe we can answer some of those kinds of questions too. But next slide, please. So the context for today's meeting, the executive board voted back in January, and that motion is public. You can find that on the USGS website. We voted to move the headquarters in accordance with the bylaws. But in order to divest ourselves of the property that's there, we have to call, we have that issue has to come before the delegates. So that's when we decided we need to go ahead and put out the word to all the delegates in accordance with the bylaws to have a special delegates meeting, and all of you should have the the packets that are associated with that. The executive board decided, let's go ahead and consult with so we put together a draft motion for the special delegates meeting, and that would involve the sale of the property in accordance with the bylaws. So then we decided, let's double check with the bylaws committee and make sure everything is okay. And the good thing was bylaws is, review triggered a second review where we had to look at things in a little bit more detail. And so we got a legal opinion to clarify some good issues that were raised by the bylaws committee. So there is a revised motion that we've put together that you'll get a chance to see here shortly that will replace the initial motion that we put forth. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Carol. Thank you. So that was the original motion that all of you should be familiar with, which was we moved to authorize the sale of the headquarters in Crossville. Okay. Well, when we went to, based on some of the comments that were coming out of the bylaws committee in particular, we saw that the issue was they wanted more specificity. So who is authorized to do the sale and so forth. So when we did that, we kind of had a little bit of discovery and kind of some lights started going on. I'm going to go to the next slide. And the real issue was that on the property deed for the building, for the property itself, the LMA trust is listed as the owners of the property. So legal opinion said the LMA trust is really the ones that have to authorize the sale. And to do that, the delegates have to approve what the LMA trust desires to do. So I'll give you a chance to read what you see right there. And the other issue that came out of the LMA trust was it came out of the bylaws was some clarification about, well, where do all the proceeds of this go when this is done? So that was part of going into the LMA trust account. So you see that sentence is at the bottom end of the motion there. So what I'll allow right now is I'm going to allow my colleague, Chuck Unruh, to talk for a second. You may have to go on mute so we don't have a double.
He's going to use our sound.
Okay, so Chuck Unruh is going to talk about some discussions that went on within the LMA Trust and provide context from the perspective of the trust. Chuck?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The LMA Trust took up the issue of the building and the sale of the building. After some discussion, the trustees have unanimously moved to sell the building. And we are not in the real estate business, and we'd have to file a 990 and other things that go along with it. So there was some other consideration, but it was a unanimous decision, and we'd like to move forward with the sale of the building.
Okay. Go to the next slide, please, Carol. Okay, so on this slide here, I tried to make it, I tried to make the, the warranty deed, as you see there, as large as we really could. But in the upper left-hand corner is where it says Life Member Asset Trust as the owner. So, by the bylaws or from the specifications that put the trust in effect, and it was, the board of delegates, this organization put the LMA Trust into being as an organization. It says they can't sell, property that's owned by the trust unless the board of delegates at a regular or special meeting resolves to sell, et cetera. You can see that there. And there was some discussion, to be quite honest, in the board that was saying, well, why do we even need to have a special delegates meeting? If the trust can do it, we don't need to do that. We just call the special delegates meeting, don't need to be involved, et cetera. And we said, look, this is in the best interest of US Chess as an organization. Our organization exists with a principle that the delegates have a significant say in what goes on. And the spirit of the bylaws was pretty clear from our perspective on the board that the delegates need to be directly involved in this, in this sale. And again, this is the sale of the property. This is not the decision to move to St. Louis. This is the sale of the property itself. So our hats off to the, to the bylaws committee for asking some pretty sharp questions of us so that we get good information and are making the right kind of a decision for the part of the, and putting forth the right kind of a decision for the good of the organization as we go and execute this sale. Next. So on the call, who's joining us this evening, we have Andy Ray. Andy is our parliamentarian for the, is at least is the person we're going to put forth to nominate as our parliamentarian, for the special delegates meeting and then for the delegates meeting itself. And Andy has gone through training to become a parliamentarian, and we all miss Ken Ballou and the expertise that he brought. And we have taken the time to get Andy spun up on to become a parliamentarian, and he's taken the coursework that's necessary in order to do that. But I'll let Andy talk introduce himself for a brief second and then talk a little bit about Robert's rules for electronic meetings. So over to you, Andy. Make sure you unmute yourself.
I just asked him to unmute.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I've been a delegate at US Chess meetings a dozen times, and at several state and local chess affiliations as well. Considerable experience in this regard. Nevertheless, it's good to have the academic background as well. So I've been perusing through this famous Robert's Rules of Order, 12th edition. It is the most recent edition. Let's see here. There we go. Nice and thick, hardback. Get very much in the weeds with the academic coursework as far as that goes. And I've touched base a few times with Mike and with Carol as far as the stipulations are concerned. one of the items that got put into the 12th edition, it's different from the previous 11, is the matter of electronic meetings. So we're making sure that we're in compliance in that regard. We are our own separate organization. So in some sense, we can say the rules are what they are for our organization, but nevertheless, there's not a reason for USHS to be bending the rules at all from previous meetings. And so we'll make sure that we're in good shape and good condition in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So just to be clear, for all of us, as we log in, this video, what you see in front of you right now, you see all of the other members who are part of the call. When we go through the special delegates meeting, you must have video and you must have audio. You must have both capabilities, because if you just have audio only, or it's just, a picture of you at a chess tournament and it's not the live you, you're not considered to be in attendance. We must be able to see your face live, and we must be able to hear, your audio when you're given the floor to talk for or against the motion as it comes up. And it's part of the quorum process as well that, hey, that's not Fun Fong. I don't know who that guy is that's logged in as Fun Fong, but it's not fun, but that's all part of that's part of the quorum process that we go through. So we're going to walk through now a few slides that just kind of give some familiarity for everyone with Zoom. And I think a lot of us, not only from the special delegates meeting a couple of years ago, but also from, seminars that we've all been part of, either at work or, because of our kids dialing into their schools or just attending, other Zoom sessions, whether it be a session that Jim Ead is hosting to interview folks on his show. But all those things, a lot of us have become, very familiar with Zoom. But we're going to go ahead and kind of baseline everybody here with just a few slides. Go ahead, Carol. Thank you.
So I'll try to spin through this quickly and would offer that if anybody has not been using Zoom the past 2 years, like many of us, to email me and I'll spend some one-on-one time to make sure you're comfortable with the platform. Zoom works best when you download the app. So if you go to zoom.us, up in the upper right corner, you can download the app to your computer, and the little icon that's circled here in the lower part of my Apple tray is the icon you would click to access the Zoom application for any meeting you want to attend. So as Mike talked about, we require that delegates have their video on for the meeting. That just helps us ground truth who's participating in the meeting. And since this meeting is one where a vote will take place, we think it's very important to keep that integrity in place. As was the case today, everybody's mic needs to be muted and will be muted by default when you enter the meeting. The two icons that are circled in my screen there, the leftmost one is the microphone. You click that on and off with your mouse, and the other is the video link. You turn it on clicking. Again, very rudimentary, but important for everybody to know how to use the platform when it comes to the meeting in just over a week. So this has actually changed since the last time we had a meeting, the location of where you raise your hand. At the bottom of most of your screens, unless you've moved it, there's something called emotions. Mine is reactions. That's it. In your reactions link or your little button there, a bunch of things come up, but that's where the raise hand button now lives. And so if you want to be recognized to speak to the motion or against the motion, that's where you would go to do that. So it's, again, in the reactions setting on your menu tray at the bottom. And each speaker gets recognized to speak for 2 minutes, I believe has been the standard at US Chess. Also new this year, see if I can, actually, I'm not going to pull it up because I don't have my Chrome window open, but we're going to be using a timer that's different. We're not going to have a camera focused on a cell phone timer this time. So that should be much easier for people to track, but your speaking time will be timed during the meeting, and everybody's allowed to speak to a particular motion twice.
And failing that, Andy has his Chronos running, so.
And then when you do have the floor assigned to you, here's a screenshot of the timer that we'll be using. It'll just count down till the time is up, and very easy to reset on the fly.
Okay, so when we during the delegates, the special delegates meeting itself, when we bring up the actual motion and you wish to make comments on the floor, just like we do at a live delegates meeting, you'll be asked to unmute your mic as you raise your hand. So as an example, I raise my hand and you can see my hand is in the air. And for those of us that are on this end here that are controlling the conference, that person jumps to the head of the queue. So we know who is the first person to put their hand in the air. Like Randy just put his hand in the air on our end here. And Randy would be given the floor. And the first thing that all of you should do when it's your turn, just like we do on the floor at the delegates meetings, you're speaking for or against the motion. Of course, when we meet in California, we'll have a big sign on the for mic and a big sign on the against mic. But we don't have a red hand and a green hand or something like that in this particular case in Zoom. So when it's your turn to talk, you should say, my name is, and state your name and say, I'm speaking for the motion or I'm speaking against the motion. That way everyone knows where you stand right at the very start. In case you wish to speak again after you've spoken the first time, you're going to be at the back end of the queue so that anyone who wants to speak first get their first say, and they have a chance to do that. And then you would have an opportunity, again, just like we do at the live delegates meeting, to get your say on a second shot. And there will be, and it was mentioned, we'll have a clock running in 2 minutes. So, and the TDs know how to set these clocks. So, Carol.
I know this may be a little hard to see, but as we did last time, we'll be using a shared document out on Google to present the motion, track who's lined up to speak. And then if somebody wants to speak a second time, we will be tracking that as well. And people will get a second chance to speak only after everybody who is recognized to speak the first time has gone. And if there are any amendments to the motion, which we do anticipate, those would be pasted in this part of the screen, and everybody will be able to see that during the meeting so that they know exactly what they're being asked to vote on. Zoom, we're going to be using the Zoom native polling feature for this meeting. And so I've got a sample poll ready to go if everybody wants to. Actually, I don't have a sample poll. We had a couple people log in as me and it disabled the polling. And unfortunately, but I can describe the process. We initiate a poll and it pops up on screen. You click your vote, whether you're for or against the motion that's before you. You hit, I think it has a submit button, and after 3 or 4 minutes of leaving it open, we'll close the vote and we'll share the results on screen. Zoom automatically tabulates the votes for us, and we have them in real time. So it's a great feature. And if you're inclined to come to our second town hall, we'll make sure that it's working there. If you have questions about Zoom, we have Jen Pearson and Rose McMahon standing by to answer your questions. If you need more technical support, I'm available to help with that. And we do ask that everybody download the most recent version of Zoom to make sure that your system is compatible with what we're running. I know Zoom, after a certain version, they don't want you to use it anymore. So if you're not a regular user, I'd encourage you to make sure your application is up to date.
Did you see there's 2 voting robots on?
So as you can see here, there is we have 2 of these meetings scheduled, the one we're in right now. The next one is on Monday evening, March 21st at 8:30 in the evening Eastern time. And then the special delegates meeting is 48 hours later on Wednesday evening, March 23rd.
This is Q&A.
And so like to go ahead and open it up now for questions. And if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Use that hand raise feature, okay? Mr. Jim Ead is first up.
I'll ask him, you want me to ask him to unmute?
First, I wanted to say thank you very much for having these town halls and also using the technology. It makes it so much simpler for us to get together and discuss these things. So you have my gratitude for that. My question is that, you know, I run a couple of Zoom meetings a week, and when I hit under reactions, there's a yes or no that allows me to vote. This polling mechanism is probably superior, but I don't see it. It makes me wonder, are you on the current version or have you disabled that somehow? I'm just
So
curious.
I can answer that. We shared the Zoom account on the staff level. And so we had multiple people sign in. And when you do that, when someone else signed in as me, it disabled my ability to run a poll. And so rather than restarting the meeting when so many people had already signed in, we just let it go. But we will make sure it's working for the next meeting. I just can't set it up on the fly.
Yeah, and we've got the most current version of Zoom, Jim, as you said. Thank you for asking, Ernie.
Yeah, this is sort of directed at Andy Ray. I saw the poll only had in favor or against. Does Robert's rules speak to whether we should collect people who care to abstain, or does that not matter?
I have to unmute him. I'm sorry, let me find him.
I got him.
Got it.
Go ahead, Andy. We didn't unmute. Just go ahead and hit you unmute, Andy. There you
My
go.
apologies. Okay, let me try that again, Ernie. Excellent question. It is not required to list the abstain votes, but they can be recorded, and that is a matter for the chair to decide. If we have something of the order of, say, 50 people voting, and you have 38 in favor, 5 against, it could be listed as 38 for, 5 against, and 7 abstain. I mean, it becomes a sort of a math problem at that stage. So it's not required to have that on the poll, and it can still be recorded in the final result. Because if you did not vote yay or did not vote nay, then, you know, we have that one candidate left over having abstained.
And one of the things that, you know, I'm kind of glad Jim Ead asked the question about the polling function. One of the things that the polling function does for us is it tracks who all voted. And as you vote, it will let you know that you voted and how it recorded your vote. So it's not like you just hit the yes button or the no button and it goes off in a never land and you don't know if your vote got recorded. The system will tell you that you just submitted a yes vote or a no vote.
But to amplify that one, Mike, we'll give you that information once the polling is completed. The other side of that is it will not let you vote twice. I'm pretty sure that, and I'm sure that might be worth at the town hall too, to make sure that it's still not letting people vote twice.
Yeah, and I would point out that as an example, I see David and Maureen, there's two screens and they both say Maureen Grimaud. That's the kind of thing where we have to be careful in delegates meeting itself, because that would only get counted as one vote. So, okay, so I see Lester Van Meters next.
Yeah, I know, Carol, you can't do a poll, but can somebody else do a poll rather than you today?
I will try to work on it while the Q&A is going on. It really is quite simple to use, but I'll see if I can't set it up. It's going to take me out of this interface though. So yeah, I'll do that while you guys are asking questions.
And are questions going to be allowed as to some of the content of the actual motion today, or for just discussion purposes?
So I just tried to click on the polls. It's because of this other login, I have the polling feature has been disabled for my use. I mean, it's
Right, for your use, but can somebody else log into the
wanna
meeting?
try
and
to-
use it?
I can try. Let's see.
we have another couple co-hosts.
Yeah, we're gonna
We're
try
asking,
it.
we're
Here
going
we
to
go.
try.
You want me to launch it?
Can you need, here, I'll show you which one it is.
I think I just did.
He did.
Wow.
Yeah, we can see it.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know, Nathan. So how do I know?
It didn't work.
Abstain.
Oh, no, I don't want to abstain. I want to vote.
Thanks for that suggestion, Lester.
Since the poll was closed before
I didn't close it.
submitted your answer.
Oh, no.
I'll share the results now. Does that
So
work?
we'll give everybody a little, about 10 seconds
Okay.
to vote. What's the-
I can't vote.
Do you send it to me because it just flashed?
No.
The results flashed.
Now I'll share the results.
Okay, so Dave Hayter ran the poll for us. Everybody seeing the results?
It's percent.
I got 3 out of 8 voted for, 5 out of 8 voted against.
Right, so that's, this exercise was really aimed at the mechanics of how you vote. And we'll be sure to have a couple polls set up for the next town hall, just to make sure everybody's comfortable with the technology. And, but I think you can appreciate the simplicity of
If you don't vote.
point and click, and your vote gets recorded.
Okay, Chris, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. From the Tennessee Chess Association, Al and I are trying to represent our entire board. We had a couple of meetings about this. First, to clarify, most of you got a letter. If you didn't, we tried to send it to your state president. The Tennessee Chess Association has no quorums at all with the move to St. Louis. We have no problem with that. Our beef is with the logistics. The main question we have is whether or not you plan to lease a building in St. Louis or buy a building in St. Louis. We don't really see the smartness in selling a building you own to lease the building, but there are a lot of information we need about the logistics of the move to St. Louis that is in direct proportion with whether or not we sell an asset that we own. And right now we have no information whatsoever.
So do you want me to respond to
go
that?
ahead.
So when the board voted, we issued an FAQ at the same time, and really the questions that you asked were included in that FAQ. So other locations that were considered were mentioned. Why can't we stay in Crossville was answered. Where will it be located? What inducements were offered? None, by the way. What will happen to the building? The building is owned by US Chess and is part of the Life Member Asset Trust. It voted delegates required to sell the building. The sale of the building would result in funds returning to US Chess via the Life Member Asset Trust. That's exactly what's going to happen with the motion that'll be put in front. And that's exactly what we as a board have discussed when we're doing our budgeting. This is not an issue of taking those resources and putting anywhere but where the building was purchased. The construction was done with funds from the Life Member Asset Trust. And we will lease. And that's, from our perspective, as Chuck already mentioned, we're not in the business where owning buildings and maintaining them is a core competency for US Chess. So a better arrangement that's more flexible and fits the ability for us to scale to our size needs, because we don't need 5,000 square feet of building space, is to lease. And that's what our plan is.
Okay, I see Maureen Grimaud is next. Maureen, go ahead. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. Couple of things. First of all, thanks, Mike, for pointing that out, that David didn't have his email right away since he registered today. And so he didn't get the email. So that was the reason why you saw 2 Maureen's on there. So in the future, I should not be doing that then, correct? I should just leave it as it, let him take care of himself.
Well,
Yes.
that, and for those who are more familiar with Zoom, you can actually change your name from your participant window. There's a rename entry. And for the delegates meeting, we're going to ask that everybody put their name and the state that they're representing in parens afterwards. So that's a good activity to practice now or between now and the special delegates meeting.
I also have one more question. Thank you, Carol, for that clarification. Is there a timetable in the future of the location of the next location then, or will that be discussed in the next town hall? Or is there some kind of ballpark timetable?
So it'll be in 2022. We expect to know by the end of this month what we're moving to St. Louis in terms of furniture, file cabinets, and the like. I think the move could happen as soon as June. And then, you know, with the US Open this summer, we would have a window after the US Open before the K-12 grade nationals in December. So, you know, as early as June, and then sometime perhaps, you know, late August, early September. But it's planned to happen in 2022.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, looks like Lester had a second question.
Yeah, you may have answered it earlier because I had trouble logging into the Zoom meeting here for some reason. But I do recall that when, you know, USCF moved from obviously to Manhattan up to New Windsor and then from New Windsor to Tennessee, one of the big reasons for moving to Tennessee was it was going to protect the life membership trust. Just like you said, Mike, that's good information. So how are you going to guarantee the life membership trust? Because one of the things that they said at that time was the equity in the building would guarantee that the life trust is still there and it wouldn't be rated, say, due to financial troubles and different things that we've had before in the past with just rating money. I don't know if that's been answered, but maybe it has, but I haven't seen it.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to restate it for Chuck. We're sharing one computer sort of in the room here, so not everybody is hearing it as well. The question was, what is the guarantee by selling the building that putting the proceeds into the life member asset trust will in fact protect the life member asset trust from problems that have plagued it in the past?
The Life Member Asset Trust came about in 2013. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of US Chess. It's a grantor trust. We can never guarantee that there would not be a problem in the future. It depends on the leadership, and our leadership model has changed in the last 2 decades. We feel comfortable with the trustees that the safeguards are in place, that we won't have the problems of 1999 and 2000. But bottom line, we are part of the US Chess organization. And the proceeds will go to service the life member reimbursements, or I should say reimbursements for life member expenses each year with US Chess.
Carol, what, from your knowledge of the books and the finances of the organization and so forth, approximately how much money did the LMA Trust, put forward to help US Chess get established in Crossville?
Yeah, my recollection from going through files recently is in the 560 to 580 range, was what I believe. There was originally a mortgage, and then the LMA Trust paid off the mortgage, and then US Chess paid off the LMA Trust. So in reality, we were provided an opportunity to buy a building when nobody should have been giving us a loan. And the LMA Trust was able to help us take that step. And the money that will return to the trust is really theirs. The building has been held in trust for them, and now it'll be liquidated, and those proceeds will return to the LMA Trust.
Thank you. Renata Garcia from Texas.
Yes, hello. I have a couple silly questions. On those town hall meetings that the next one that is coming up on the 21st, and then the delegates meeting, will be receiving another email to register, because I had problems with that. And I was just wondering if we needed to get a new Zoom link, or is this going to be the same one that we use for both of those town hall and the special delegates meeting?
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I can answer that. That is scheduled to go out Monday, an email to registered delegates. It'll have registration links for both the next town hall and the special delegates meeting in a single email. So you will have to register twice if you want to participate in both of those things. They will have separate credentials.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
Hey, Andy.
Yes, Andy Ray, asking in my capacity as a delegate from Florida. And I wanted to ask the board, as far as whether you think it is advisable to have the price that you're looking to sell this for to be specified in the motion. And probably more of a price range, but nevertheless, we don't want to be in a position of selling it for $24, like happened back in the 1600s.
So I'll take a first stab at that. We actually had an appraisal conducted last week on the building. We were told it'll take 10 days to get the report from that appraisal. So we hope to have it in time for the special delegates meeting. I don't know if that's 10 business days or 10 calendar days. So anyway, it was, I think, last Wednesday. I can pretty much assure you that we're not going to undersell the building. I think if it looks like we are in a situation where the building would put us underwater or somehow not give us market value, the board would probably, I would think, reconvene and decide whether or not this was the right time to make this move. But I don't know whether it makes sense to put a price in the motion, simply because there isn't a lot of comparable property in the Crossville area to the one that's being sold. And while we have some notion that the building will sell for a good amount, we won't know until we have a contract and until that loan gets approved to sell that that building. So I'm not sure putting a range, or at least a narrow range, makes a lot of sense, but others may feel differently.
Can I make one comment?
Yep.
So I'm the one member of the board that was on the board when we moved to Crossville. And US Chess's finances are light years different now than they were then. There isn't a need for us to immediately have cash. It's going to go back into the life member asset trust. And so if we are in a situation where we don't believe that the sale price is sufficient, we'll keep it on the market. And we have the ability to do that. Part of why we want to get this in motion is so we can figure out where that point in time is that we're, selling the building and putting it on the market. But there is no interest in the board having a fire sale related to that asset. At the same time, it's a somewhat illiquid asset. And with what our investment committee has been able to accomplish in recent years, we think it's going to do better for US Chess if we make that a more liquid asset and then use the prudent investment strategies that have done very well for the organization.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Maureen Ramon?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Question. This commercial property that's going to the LMA Trust, if and when they sell, will the proceeds will go, like you said, Randy, to to liquid assets. But is there a program like they do in the for-profit world, a 1031 exchange of some sort? Are there any tax or non-tax, in this case, advantages that you've looked at, or does that apply?
It doesn't apply.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if there was something in that realm, since I'm not familiar with nonprofits on that score.
I'm going to raise one question, and this was a great question that got raised by my colleague and mentor to become a national tournament director, Ernie Schlick, down in Virginia. When I was talking with Ernie and some of my Virginia colleagues about this, Ernie used to work at US Chess and knows that we have a library that is very valuable and has a collection of some precious products that are very deep and rich in chess history. So I'm going to allow Carol to talk about the plans for what's going on with the library so that everyone is aware.
So we had John Donaldson, who is an international master, many of you know, but he's also a renowned chess historian. We brought John to Crossville a couple of weeks ago to help us assess the quote unquote value of the library. And what John recommended we do, and these conversations were already underway, but the library's holdings have things that are quite ordinary, things that are, most of you probably have in your own chess collection. And then the things that are either rare or historically significant to US Chess as an organization, those kinds of things were set aside. And our intent is to take those things that are historically significant and rare and put them on permanent loan to the US Chess Hall of Fame in St. Louis. That accomplishes two things. One is they will be professionally managed and curated. Our library has suffered from benign neglect for at least the amount of time it's been in Crossville. It's more importantly, it's really been inaccessible to people. And we believe that in partnership with the World Chess Hall of Fame, those books could in fact see the light of day and be used by researchers and writers and others who might want to track something down more readily. The remaining books, and I don't have the details yet, but the current thinking that the board has done is to make the remaining books available to US Chess affiliates. And we're thinking about having an open house, perhaps next month, where we invite affiliates to come and take books. My understanding, I wasn't there when John Hartman, who assisted, finished boxing up, but we're at 200 boxes of books. So these are banker boxes, and we're not done boxing up books. And so there's a tremendous amount of material there for people to come and take. We don't yet know what that's going to look like. We're not looking for money. We're just looking to rehome the books and know that chess people are the ones who are going to be using them. So that is the current plan. Daim?
Yes, my question is about some of the materials that you may be referring to. I'm not completely sure, but you all may remember I've been in US chess since the late 70s. And I played my first tournament, well, first tournament was 78, but we used to look forward to getting the rating supplements. The rating supplements, are those part of that library going all the way back before 91? Because I know the ratings only go back to 91. And sometimes I need to refer to ratings before that. Are the rating supplements part of that library?
So yes and no. They are in Crossville, the ones that we still have, right? So we are undertaking another digitization project of US chess assets, if you will. So you may have seen on our website, Dan Lucas has put out an RFP to digitize some cross tables that weren't part of the transition to what we now know as MSA. That we have 100+ binders of dot matrix printouts in storage there. Those will be scanned. The rating supplements that we do have will be digitized as well, along with some other things that we've come across, like old delegates calls, which contain a lot of governance information that the organization should be preserving. So there's an RFP out on the street, and we hope that that gets underway later this month as well. There has been some interest expressed by the Hall of Fame to not have those things destroyed after they're digitized. And so I could actually see them winding up and having a home in St. Louis if they can find the space to keep them. But I'm not speaking for them. This is just part of a ongoing process. Our goal is to make sure that they're preserved, and the best way to do that now is to do them digitally.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, did you have another question, or is your hand stuck up in the air like you said?
No, I did have another comment rather. The Chess Journalists of America also brought this up because they wanted to be sure that we retain things. And Damien's, point is consistent with the types of things that I heard at this discussion at the Chess Journalist. The supplements were precious to some of us, but of course during moves we didn't keep them, and so why would you? But that was the type of thing we were talking about, and I couldn't agree more that John Donaldson is an excellent choice. But I'm sure they're good. I can report that back to the Chess Journalist, and I'm sure that'll make some happy, but maybe not all. Somebody's going to want to. And have you reached out to them? Is my question.
We have not, although John Hartman and of course John Donaldson have been integrally involved in this library project, and so I guess they're our proxy to the CJA, and certainly are free to share the information that I don't want to say we're making this up as we go, but as more closets are opened and more drawers are open, we just keep finding more stuff, and we're doing our best to preserve what we have.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Okay, and again, this goes to the proceeds from the building. This move was not part of the budget for this year, obviously. Is there a cost analysis, or is there going to be a cost analysis made available to the delegates on the actual cost of this move? How much it's going to cost us to lease, how much it's cost us to store the materials that we have before we disposition it? How much have we done a cost analysis to make available to delegates on the actual cost of this move?
Right, that will be part of the budget process that we present in August to the delegates.
But that's directly related to whether or not what we do with the proceeds from the sale of this building. Because if it's going to cost us a lot to move, and some of the proceeds needs to go towards that.
Right, so the LMA trust already owns the building. So when the building gets sold, the proceeds from the sale of the building will go back to the LMA trust. They have ownership, and I guess I don't understand.
Well, unless it's amended, I would just, if it's going to cost us a significant amount to move, the Tennessee Chess Association would like to see some of those proceeds go towards the move. Because
I
it's
see.
not in our current budget. And then, you know, we're going to have a substantial cost every year in renting a new facility when we have a lower membership and we just raised membership rates. So we just kind of like to know how much this move is going to cost. And that kind of directs Alan and I as delegates, how we need to proceed as far as what we suggest for the proceeds and amending for the proceeds of that building. That's the only thing. So if there's not going to be one done, there's not going to be one done.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay, hearing none, I want to thank everyone for dialing into the session this afternoon. And of course, if you have another question, oh, you got it. Okay. If you have a question that you didn't get a chance to ask, you have a couple of options. We've got the points of contact. Feel free to reach out to us on the executive board. And also you can, we'll have another session on Monday a week, 2 days before the actual special delegates meeting. But again, my thanks to the board for joining on the call today. Thanks to all of you as delegates representing the interests of your members in your states. And remind your fellow delegates from your states that we do have another session on the 21st, that they will have a chance to, to get online and ask some questions as well and partake in the, sort of the learning, just like you've done here today, and also get a chance to practice voting again. But we're here in Atlanta for another 3/4 of the day. We go until 1 o'clock tomorrow in our executive board discussions, and we've been focusing on the budget. This is our time of the year where we concentrate on the budget, and largely so that we come out of this discussion this weekend with enough guidance that's in the hands of Carol as our executive director and Chuck as our vice president of finance, so they can go and finalize the budget. And then we talk about it again in the May timeframe or thereabouts before we bring it to you as delegates at the meeting in August. So thank you again. And that's all here from Atlanta. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Did you see Chris Prosser's?
He touched one last question.
Yeah, what's the rush?
What's the rush for what?
That was for the sale of the property.
Oh,
For the sale.
get the price, get the right price.
The timing is everything.
Yeah.
Well done. Thanks for the opportunity to ask you guys what's going on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for you
Thank you
guys'
all.
questions. It helps us sharpen the, sharpen the process. That's what we need.
Okay.